Howdy, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we wanted to talk about the state level of the association and what that means for you as a Realtor member. Joining me today is Mike Barnett, our CEO from Texas Realtors. Howdy, Mike. How are you?
Hey, Gilbert. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us. Mike, how long have you been at the helm of Texas Realtors now?
Yeah, so I took over as president and CEO last April. In fact, it was April 1st. So I'm still trying to figure out whose bright idea was it to make me the April Fool, but that's played out in a lot of ways over the last year, right?
I mean, surprise. Um, eh, so I don't know. I have had the opportunity to work with you and get to know you, but I'd really like to share a little bit of your background to our realtor members here in San Antonio to learn more about who is managing our associations at the state. Where did you start? What is your origin story, if you will?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love it. I started my professional career in the Texas Capitol long ago, working in legislative offices and got to know the realtors from that perspective very well because of the reputation and the credibility and the engagement that realtors have over at the state capitol. And then, and however, a higher cause happened in 2005, and I got married, and my wife was in Dallas. It was coincidentally at the about the time that Texas Realtors created the field representative program, which is, I think, maybe I'm biased here a little bit, but one of the greatest programs that we've ever created. And so spent a couple of years up there doing that, and then had the opportunity to move back down to Austin, join the staff here across the street from the Capitol. Was director of political affairs, part of the lobby team, headed up the grassroots and the political activities, and did that for a couple of legislative sessions as well. And then got an opportunity that I wasn't planning on, but took to move into the chief operating officer role, and that was at the end of 2012, and did that. Worked hand in hand with our CEO at the time, Travis Kessler, who San Antonio knows very well. But did that for a long time, for about 12, 13 years under Travis. Then had that opportunity to step up after a rigorous campaign through the process of candidate selection. But yeah, so it's been great. It's been a great career. I tell everybody I would never want to be anywhere else. It was a no-brainer to come to come to work for the Realtors. Even when I was in Dallas, it wasn't that I needed a job. It was that the Realtors asked, and it took no time to answer that call, even before I talked to my wife about it, which was fun.
Excellent. So, I mean, you came up and through the advocacy side of the organization. How important do you think the advocacy side of it is at the state level, which is, the I would say the meats and potatoes of what we do at the state level?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, and it's obviously a passion of mine, and one that we live and breathe every single day. Of, really at the end of the day, how do we make the industry work? How do we ensure that Texas stays the best place in the world to buy, sell, and lease real property? And that's what it's all about. And so it's really that eye on making sure that Texas is a great place to do business, so that we continue to bring droves of people in from other states, but just as importantly with that, is that our infrastructure can handle the growth, and that we have smart policies to be able to make sure that it's still a great place to own, buy, and sell and lease property. And that comes with things like water. Water's such a huge issue right now. Electricity and road infrastructure, all those things that help sustain the growth that we've had in Texas. So yeah, we could go on about this forever, Gilbert.
No, for sure. And so before, and we'll come back to that. I want to go back to what you said was like creating the field rep program. Maybe that could be a part of the answer. But what is the distinction between local and the state associations? I think most people will pay their dues, and they're like, I have to pay all three organizations. But we try really hard, and now's our opportunity to say this is what the state does, and this is how it's different from the local association.
Yeah, no, thanks for tying back to that. And the field reps are a great part of that. But at the higher level, and I totally agree with you that there's just a lack of knowledge, and that's something that we're working on hard, is trying to identify that value and that return on investment for member dues, as to what's the differentiation between the three levels of the organization, but more importantly, making the point that it's best to look at this as a whole package, and each level of the organization has its lane and has its place in providing value and benefit to realtors and consumers. And it's important to know what those are, because it's not three organizations doing the exact same thing. And where the local organization is really specializes in that day to day business tools and things that and value that you provide to realtor members. And then that state level is that step up and kind of building the marketplace as a whole and maintaining that maintaining the business environment that's positive to doing business in Texas. And things like obviously we've talked about the advocacy piece, and that's huge. That's making sure that the system as a whole across the state is positive, and that there are smart policies in place at the state level, because there are so many things. Yes, we look at the local level, and there's planning and zoning and ordinances at the local level that really have a day-to-day impact. But there are issues at the state level that impact the entire industry, whether that's license law, whether that's other types of things, county regulations, or other things that happen that are statewide. Because as you well know, things that happen locally trickle up and they become statewide issues. And we can talk about partnerships and how we work together. But thinking about the infrastructure of the industry and the role that Texas Realtors plays. Let's talk about forms. Forms and contracts. Texas Realtors creates that Texas Realtors library so that there's consistency among marketplaces, and takes that burden off of brokerages and individuals of having to create your own contracts or hiring attorneys to write contracts for every deal that you do. And we've got 190 plus forms in the Texas Realtors library. That think about if you were to have to create a form every time you did a transaction, what the cost of that would be, and having to, or even if you created your own library, of what that cost of always updating every time there's a change, either in a trade contract, or the legislature comes in and causes changes, or being responsive to the marketplace. And we've got forms task forces of practitioners that come in and look at the forms. I know everybody's familiar with the changes because we've been inundated with those changes over time. But then putting those forms and contracts into technology tools like ZipForm that a great deal of our members have adopted and utilized. And just thinking about what it would cost you to subscribe to a technology product platform like that would be more than your annual dues to Texas Realtors. And so things like that, risk reduction tools that our legal department works on every single day. Our professional standards process. Many people probably don't know that the state handles professional standards in partnership and on behalf of all the local associations across the state. And ways to iron out conflicts that keep you from having to go to court. Our ombudsman program. If there's an issue that pops up and it can't be worked out, there's an ombudsman program without that need to go to court. So again, an ROI of what's that value in return for the dues that you're paying. Our research products, our overall commitment to professionalism, those sorts of things in the state. Those are kind of where the state focuses its efforts and tries not to, but in partnership, tries not to interfere with what's happening at the national level or the local level.
So, Mike, all the things that you've mentioned, right? The hotlines, the legal hotline. I don't think you actually mentioned that one, but I wrote it down. Hotline, forms, member benefits, research. I mean, these are not new, and I think a lot of times our members aren't aware of the things that TR provides to it on a day-to-day operational level. What are you doing to try and help our members know, hey, you know what, that annual dues you pay for actually provides you all of these benefits? How are y'all attacking that? Because I feel like that's each one of us, the local, the state, and the national, are all working really hard to make sure that we're talking about the value proposition. What is TR doing in order to overcome that?
Yeah, no, it's a really great question. It's one that is poignant, and one that really pops out. And certainly since I've been in this role of trying to add that clarity of what it is, and it's funny but not funny. We go around and we host in partnership with local associations what we call our 360 meetings, and those are our regional meetings in all parts of the state. And we get out in front of hundreds of members at a time, and we do about 10 of these a year. And actually, we'll be in Del Rio very soon, or whenever this airs, we'll have been in Del Rio. But I asked that question because we're focused on that return on investment. What's the value of being a member of the state and the national association? But in these conversations, it's about that state level as well, because we hear so often, well, I just want to be able to do MLS, and let me do that and give me some forms. I don't want to be members of all these different levels. And we go around and ask the question during those regional meetings, again, with in front of probably cumulatively per year about 3,000 people. And I asked them pointedly, what 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 can anybody tell me what the dues level is for Texas Realtors? What you pay in dues annually for Texas Realtors? And nobody can. And it's not anybody's fault for not being able to, because like you say, you pay your dues all up front. It's all kind of bundled into one package, and then we're surprised why our value and value
Right.
proposition isn't clear to folks. And so that's something that we've been focused on a lot. And we started a campaign last year called "What's in It for Me," and hopefully you've seen some of those
Mhm.
things come out that really delineate these valuable programs that are at the state level alone, and then also trying to tie in with advocacy. What's that? Advocacy is kind of vague in terms of, can I really put a dollar amount on it? Well, not in every case. In some of the cases, you actually can, where we prevented in state law you from being realtors from being taxed on their personal vehicles that they use for business purposes. You can put a dollar value on that, but other things that we get involved in the advocacy level, you can't really put a dollar value on. And so we've really tried to be better communicators about that individual value at the state level, and making the point that these things all work together. The value that you're getting and the programs that you're engaging with that help you out at the local level, and even at the NAR level, they all work together. But it's smart to be able to understand what you're getting from every level. I'd be frustrated if I was paying for
Right.
something that I didn't that wasn't clear to me actually what I was getting back.
So I want to build on the "What's in It for Me" campaign, just to kind of highlight it and talk about the day to day. And when you talk about forms, and I think about our members, I know when I was taking phone calls from agents who had questions and realtor members who had questions, it always came up, hey, this one brokerage wanted to give me, they created this new legal form. I didn't want to sign it. I don't know who signed it. Like, I don't know if we communicate well enough the value and a proposition of the forms, and that, like, hey, you know what, the forms, we're educate on the forms. We know that it goes through a full vetting process. Imagine if you went to every transaction and the broker said, here's my forms,
Yeah.
and what it would cost. Like, so using that, like, how is that "What's in It for Me" campaign worked out, and what's it looking to hit on?
Yeah, I think we are getting a broader understanding of some of that, and pointing out exactly what you're talking about, and especially now, where the industry is undergoing an evolution. Right, we're in the midst of
Every day.
a pretty quick evolution of the industry, and where there's more focus on individuals, or individual business models and that sort of thing. And we're seeing what you're talking about, where whether it's a particular brokerage or franchise that has a forms library available to them. But even more pointedly, in some discussions that I've gotten into recently with brokers, is that they're starting to see AI generated contracts come
Mm.
across the desk at them. And we talk about a lot too, if there was greater fragmentation, or even to the extent that there is fragmentation. You said it best. Realtors are accustomed to, and they're trained on, and have a high level of knowledge of those Texas Realtors forms. And when an unfamiliar contract form comes across the desk, what are you to do if you're not familiar with that particular contract? What's your message and value proposition to your client? If you've got to say, you've got to have hire a lawyer to interpret that what's in this for you, or send it back and say, we hear some that send it back and say we won't accept anything except unless it's on a Texas Realtors form, because we know, number one, we know the forms, we understand the forms. Number two, we know, and I want to communicate this to our listeners today, is that that forms library has been vetted and supported, litigated in many cases. Those forms have stood the test of time, and you can rest assured and stand with a high level of confidence and comfort that those are forms that are solid and can hold up. And if they don't, we also have what's called our legal defense fund, where we have gone in and actually defended where the forms themselves are a central part of a conflict, and those have held up many times in court. And it also helps us to understand how members are using these issues that members are seeing, because again, that forms task force that I talked about earlier, they constantly review these things to ensure that they're actually serving the marketplace as well as they can. Now they're fair forms, and so if you're not looking for a fair form that treats both sides of the transaction fairly, then maybe Texas Realtors isn't the right form for you. But we feel that's the right thing on behalf of consumers on both sides.
Here's the thing, though. Let's just say I do have a problem with a form, or that the forms library doesn't have the form that I'm looking for. TR is absolutely open to having that conversation and looking to be a value. How do members need to know that the TR is available for that exact commentary, and that's the way TR wants to grow and adapt and be available to its members? How can we let them know to do that?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, and it is something that's super important to us, is that we get that feedback, because we are a member driven organization. That's how we've gotten as successful and credible as we have over the years. I know the same stands for Sabor and all of our local partners across the state. And there are many ways, but the most direct way of doing that is we have an email address dedicated to that, and that's forms at texasrealtors.com, forms at texasrealtors.com. So at any point in time, you're free to email that email address. Our legal team monitors that. It goes to all the staff on the legal team so that they can see those comments. Obviously, when we're making changes to the library, there will be an opportunity to comment on all those changes. And you just saw that with our removal of broker to broker. We put out all of those changes that we were making for members to review and have input on. But to your point, when there's something that maybe hasn't been addressed or something that needs to be tweaked in a form, then that email address is the perfect way to go about it. Because we have a legal staff, and we have lots of dedicated and experienced employees here. But what we don't have are people that are on the ground every single day doing transactions and can see where there might be friction in a particular clause or something like that. So great question.
What do you think is the one thing we've talked about, a couple of member benefits, the one thing that members are not taking full advantage of that TR provides?
Two things. I'll double the value of my response to you, but one of those that we put a lot of time and effort into is Market Viewer, and that's our market analytics program that is a partnership with every MLS in the state. We aggregate all the data together and be able to produce those at the localist of levels. Even it goes down from the state level all the way down to neighborhoods in many cases, certainly in communities like San Antonio, but down to zip code and school district and other areas. That's a great tool because we built it around being able to just be a turnkey product. You can develop infographics and send those out to your customers and clients and use them as marketing pieces as well. They include the local association logo on those because that's who we're partners with and get that data from. The other thing that I would really promote here are our consumer outreach campaign collateral that we've been engaged in for the last couple of years. Following the NAR lawsuit and certainly during that settlement process, the public narrative out there from wherever, whether it be newspapers or other media outlets or whatever the case may be, was really negative. And we took it upon ourselves again in partnership with local associations as well as being able to try to control that narrative a little bit better. And that's where we put out a number of media pieces videos and digital ads and things like that that are really focused on enhancing consumers' perceptions of the value of using realtors. So last year we put out commercial ads on first-time home buyers and upsizers and downsizers. We're expanding that this year to get into advocacy just a little bit, and then going and focusing on the seller side as well. So you'll see those come out here in the next couple months, and you can get all of that collateral at texasrealestate.com/consumer campaigns. So if you go to that URL, you'll be able to grab all of those and be able to download them, share them yourself. We also dedicated funding at the state level to work with local associations to amplify that message, whether it's buying additional media coverage in your local markets or helping execute a locally developed consumer outreach campaign. I know Sabor has done that, and glad to partner in that effort. But that's has been a huge focus in the last couple years, is really trying to turn the needle on that consumer perception of the value of using a realtor. And those materials are all available to our members to get out there and use as you will.
Is the market viewer collateral at the same place as the media campaign as well?
No, good question.
Yeah.
Texas Real Estate, TexasRealEstate.com/market viewer. And you can also go, it's not only the MLS on the MLS data on the residential side, but we also have a commercial dashboard in there that we partner with Moody's to be able to provide commercial market data across 8 or 9 different sectors of commercial real estate, which is great. There's so much to dig into there, and really that alone, even if you were to get into a subscription to a commercial data provider like that, you've more than spent your Texas Realtors annual dues in a month.
So I would assume the value proposition for the media campaign and the market viewer, we often have people online who talk about you need to be able to put out content, you need to find your voice. This is leveraging data info in order to do that effectively, or at least show that you are the expert in the industry.
Yeah, and that's a great point. We're really sensitive and hear that message of, I talk to folks all the time that say, yeah, the research reports that you put out are great, a lot of great information, but gosh, I really wish you'd just send something that I can turn around. I'm really busy. I get 1,000 emails a day. Just give us stuff that we can immediately turn around and send out to our networks and spheres of influence. And that's where these consumer ads certainly are just turnkey products that you can use instantly. The same with Market Viewer. There's a section on there that just produces an infographic. You fill out a couple fields, and it gives you an infographic that you can instantly download and share, rather than trying to interpret what we're providing out there. It's actually a turnkey. Here you go, send it out.
So I think the next statewide TR conference is in San Antonio. Am I right?
That's right. Yes.
Okay. Excellent. So
the next 2, as a matter of fact.
It's even better, right? The party that don't stop. So there's that is a good way for people to get engaged, and I'm hoping a lot of folks, when TR annual conference comes to San Antonio, they'll attend, learn way more about what TR does. However, most of us, there's 150,000 agents who have chosen, right? Okay. How do they engage? I mean, they know where our office is, right? San Antonio, but obviously people aren't driving up to Austin and say, oh, well, check out the building. What is the best way for our members to get engaged with TR? And maybe it's not committees, right? Like, they don't have the time to commit to committees, but how are you hoping that our members will get engaged with y'all?
Sure. I can't get out of here without plugging the committee, though. But
okay, that's fair.
And the fact, we're in sign up right now. It ends June 30th. But to your point, number one, that's not feasible for everyone. And number two, we don't have a place on a committee, in a committee structure, for 145,000 people all at the same time. And so that's important to really define what engagement means and make it easy. And so, I would say a couple things. Number one, at the very easiest, every Thursday our focus newsletter comes out, and we're not trying to fill your inbox with fluff and things that you don't need to know. What comes out on a Thursday in our focus newsletter are really the highlights and things that are intended to be useful and valuable to members. So engagement at that level is important, just to be informed, to understand what's happening in the marketplace, things that are impacting. That's where we're going to talk about, hey, forms changes are coming up, or a trick contract is changing, or things like that. That's where we're going to first put that out. Obviously, those things end up in a magazine, but we're down to 6 magazines during the course of the year. Now that focus newsletter is really where to go for that, and that recap newsletter is really where you're going to see kind of that. Here's where we are on these particular issues. Moving forward, there will be, we get surveyed to death. I could probably either of us open up our email inboxes right now and probably have 3 or 4 of them. But things like the policy issues, at some point when we get close enough to say, okay, here's where we're thinking we're going to be, we're going to ask for members' input. We recently asked for members' input on our governance review process that we're undergoing right now. We recently asked just for general input as we went into our strategic planning process. We want to know what members think. We want to get that feedback. We want to be able to stand behind the fact that we are member driven, not by a few members, but by by the members at large of this organization. And so those are important ways to be informed through the focus and the recap newsletter, through the magazine, but also be engaged. Take that opportunity to use your voice when the opportunity arises. All of those surveys have open-ended questions as well. That really gives you the opportunity to say what's on your mind. Tell us where you think the organization needs to be, and take that opportunity. Come out to come out to conference. We're so thrilled to be in San Antonio for the next 2 years. It's always well, I don't know if I should say this publicly, but it's always everybody's favorite. People love coming to.
We'll keep it quiet. That's okay.
Right. No, yeah. But then things like regional meetings, and when we're out and about in your communities, we try not to stay in Austin all the time, and we try to get out there as much as we possibly can. So take that opportunity, not only whether it's me or another staff member, but also members of our leadership team as well. We love hearing from you.
Yeah, I think you nailed it on. Not everyone can participate in a committee, but probably more important is those surveys that go out that y'all send, that we send. I know the National Association has been sending them out. We want to be responsive to the members, and the way to do that is to make sure that we're having them guide us in that direction. And I hope our members collectively take advantage of those surveys to help guide us, because the committees make the decision based on the information they collect. Hopefully they know their voice is absolutely being heard.
Well, and I'll tell you, those surveys get read. In fact, I spent about 2 hours this morning reading over the 550 respondents' comments on our governance review survey that just concluded last Friday. And so we do take a hard look into what members are saying, and it absolutely has influence.
So as we wrap up here, I don't know when our episode is going to actually hit the air. Hopefully this isn't a dark way to end it, but I've been thinking a lot about a boat that has a virus on it. And if I think back 6 years, there was a virus that started on a boat. And I'm using that as an example of, I don't know if the members saw how hard TR felt to make real estate an essential service, right? Like, this is me thinking way back when,
right, on
the advocacy of the state association. Not that I'm saying that would happen again, but what does the future look like for TR, and what should our members be keeping an eye out for?
Yeah. I think what is absolutely critical during this time, with everything going on in the industry, is that we have an opportunity to have a conversation about how we are stronger together. This industry is stronger together, and I don't just mean from a local board to state board to national organization level, but the fact that we are a united industry, and that's where it started, and that is why we have such influence over policies in the state of Texas. And yeah, I mean, you gave the example of the of real estate remaining essential during the pandemic, and that's a great example of it. Is that we are in a unique situation, and one that I don't feel like any other advocacy organization in the state is, in that we have an almost an entire industry. Did you know that 86% of licensees in the state of Texas are realtor members? That's a huge voice. That's a huge influence. When we can go to the state capitol, or we can go to policy leaders, when we can go to the governor and saying we are speaking with the voice of the entire industry, versus how different it would be if we went and we were representing 30% of the industry, or we were representing a fragment of the industry, and there were different voices out there. I can tell you from legislative experiences, when there are groups that come in and an industry isn't united or isn't speaking with the same voice on an issue, what happens? The policymakers will say, go figure that out and come back to us when you have a solution that you agree on. And that's what's so important about this stronger together concept and the unity of the real estate industry and the realtor organization, is that we're afforded the opportunity to speak in one voice. From a policy standpoint, we have the opportunity to speak with one voice. From a regulatory standpoint, we have the ability to come together and decide on things and make changes in the industry that helps everyone across the board serve clients and customers, rather than, well, it looks different over here because they're realtor members, and if you go over here, you're going to get a different experience, and if you go over here, you're going to get a different experience. So, really, you're going to see us double down, continue to double down on this narrative around the unity, and remembering why the realtor organization started to begin with, to raise that bar on professionalism, to have some order and predictability and stability on behalf of consumers within the real estate industry. So that's super important to us. Obviously, technology is changing the world, and so we haven't always been the best over the last 104 years or so of embracing and leading on technology. That's something that's really important to us, as well as to be a voice on technology and help our members understand and utilize technology. We always say technology and AI is not going to replace realtors. We can have that conversation ad nauseum, but those realtors that are using technology for the tool and the resource and the efficiencies that it brings are going to give those that aren't a hard time. And so that's certainly important as well.
Mike, it's been great chatting with you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you helping us to tie together what we think is a great partnership with the state and the National Association. We look forward to seeing you at the conference. Is there anything you want to send our members off with?
No, listen, I just want to thank you for as you said, the partnership. And we there's nothing more important to us than being great partners at the local level. I would say yes. While we're at conference, and now we're going to have a great turnout, because everybody in the San Antonio Board of Realtors.
Please, absolutely, yeah, that'd be great.
Come up and talk to us. That's what we're there for. That's why we come to your community. We want to engage in those conversations. We want to be partners with you. We take it very, very seriously that we're a member-driven organization. So please take those opportunities to reach out. And Gilbert, thank you for having me. Thanks for being a great host and a great partner in this organization.
I appreciate it, Mike. And I think I will tell all of our members we both appreciate y'all's membership and that you value participating in the process. So we look forward to seeing you at the next one. Thank you, everybody.